Well, hey Salem, happy February. If you are someone who is in a relationship or if you have ever lived on this earth for a number of years, you know that February is the month of love
That's right.
because Valentine's Day happens in February. So, fellas,
Special.
February 14th, make sure you mark that on your calendars to get flowers and candies and stuff.
Do
We,
it.
we, yeah, we figured.
Don't make that mistake, fellas. Come on.
Don't be that guy. So we figured with February we would utilize Family Blueprint with a theme of relationships. And if you are someone on this earth, then you experience relationships in some form or fashion. And if you think about it, there's really kind of three spheres of how we experience relationships. And so first and foremost is we have a relationship with God. God is the one who created us, and in fact, He created us to have a relationship with Him. We also relate to other people, whether it's another person or whether it's with the world that's around us. We're constantly relating with people exterior to us. But we also relate to ourselves internally. And God created us to live and to thrive in these three different spheres of relationships. So you can even think about in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve related to one another for sure. They related to the world around them, but they also related to themselves. They're human beings with thoughts, emotions, and things like that. But ultimately, they were to relate to God. And we see with the fall that all three of these spheres of relationships have been affected. Sin has separated us from God. Sin has fractured our relationship with one another, where we deal with anger, with bitterness, with fighting. And then also there's a fracture in our relationship with ourselves, whether it be things like anxiety or depression. We live in a world of fractured relationships. But the beautiful thing is the gospel is mending these things back to the way that they should be.
Yes.
So because of Christ and what He's done, we're able to be united with Him. And when we're united with Christ, then our relationship with God is bridged. We're able to have a relationship with Him. In fact, Jesus was asked what's the most important rule out of the whole Old Testament scriptures to follow. And He says this in Mark 12, verse 30. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, with all your mind and with all your strength. And because of the gospel, we're able to do that. We're able to have a right relationship with God. But He said the second is the same. Is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. So because of the gospel, not only are we able to relate rightly with God, but because of the gospel, we're able to relate with one another too.
There's hope there.
There is hope there. And because of the gospel, we can fix the fractured relationship we have with ourselves. I'm thinking specifically like Romans 12, verse 2. Don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. So because of the work of Christ, we are continuing to grow in our Christ likeness. And the things that sin has cursed, Jesus is making new. And that includes our relationship with ourselves.
Yeah, that's so true. And God gives us basically two different gifts that help in our relationship to one another. It's either the gift of singleness or the gift of marriage. Everyone has been single, might even be single their whole life. That's a gift that God gives each of us for a major part of our life and even into eternity. Jesus says, you're not going to be married in heaven. It's that kind of intimacy that you have with God and your fellow man, that there's no need for marriage to have that deeper intimacy because you'll already have the perfect relationships that we have. It's an awesome thing. So Paul says in 1 Corinthians 7, verses 7 to 8, I wish that all were as I myself am, but each has his own gift from God, one of one kind and one of another. To the unmarried and the widows, I say that it is good for them to remain single as I am. Now that sounds kind of contrary to traditional church culture, right? Which is like marriage is like the best thing ever. And I'm married, and I mean, marriage is awesome. That's because that's a gift that God's given me. We'll talk about that in a second. But the gift of singleness is a gift as well. And the Apostle Paul is speaking from God when he says, don't be envious of those who are in a different season or have been given a different gift or relationship than you. And look at Paul's life. Look at how many believers that he impacted for Christ. Look at the churches he was able to start, the people he was able to lead to Christ, the leaders he raised up, because the gift of singleness is you have the ability to move around and impact many people because you're not having to go home and make sure that the one person, your spouse, is okay and had a good day and everything. You can go ask 10 people, how was your day? And you can be out and about and make a big impact in that way. So if you are single, well, all of us have been single at one point, or will continue to be single. So if you are single, listen to the words of Paul. He says, don't envy for more. Look at what I've given you. What a gift that is. And God always gives us the best gifts, right? And same thing with marriage. If you are married, that is also a gift from God. And it is also for a season and to be enjoyed for his glory. If you look back at Genesis 2, which is right before the fall, when relationships were fractured, what was God's original design for marriage? In Genesis 2:24, he says, therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. So there's that new family forming, where you move from the family you were with or the home where you were living single by yourself, and now you have covenanted together with one person for as long as you both live to love each other intimately, like the Father loves the Son, and the Son loves the Father, and the Spirit loves the Father and the Son. There's that deep, intimate love where the two of you serve the Lord together as one flesh. And it's a beautiful picture of the gospel. Over in Ephesians 5, we're told husbands are to love their wives as Christ loves the church. I mean, Christ gave everything for the church. Husbands have the joy of giving everything for their wife's sake. Wives have the joy of giving themselves for their husband's sake. And all of that points the glory to God. So whether your gifting is singleness right now or marriage, you can relate to others for the glory of God and make disciples. It's a really awesome thing.
That's right. And relationships matter because relationships are going somewhere. There's an end goal to the things that we relate to one another with. And we see that in a beautiful picture in the book of Revelation. Once Christ has established his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven, and sin and death are no longer a hindrance to the way that we relate to one another, we will live out Revelation 21:3. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, behold, the dwelling place of God is with man, and he will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be as their God. So for all eternity, we're going to relate to one another as God's people, and God is going to dwell with us and relate to us as our God. And that's a beautiful thing.
I love it. We can actually be the family that God has called us to be, which is the whole point of our blueprint resource. We want to point the families of our church towards, look at that beautiful picture that God's given us through the gospel. So you can look forward to the rest of this month. We are going to be sending resources your way, specifically designed to equip your family, or you, if you're a single person, and that's your family unit. How has God equipped you to be the family that God has called you to be? So stay tuned. We've got a lot of exciting things coming.